So we're delighted to have you here for our 4th annual URI Center for Humanities Festival. For those who don't know me, my name is Anu Palakunuthu Matthew, and I'm the director of the Center for Humanities and also a professor of art. Yes, it's kind of strange to have an artist running the Center for Humanities. The center is committed to fostering intellectual exchange. The humanities, it lends itself to asking difficult questions and lets us look at multiple threads in order to appreciate the whole. This year, we're exploring the outrage at the recent incidents against young Black men by placing it in the larger context of African American history. We are honored to have Peniel Joseph as our keynote speaker to have this conversation. Prepare yourselves to be challenged, excited, and inspired. I would be remiss not to thank the sponsors and my supportive board. Their names are listed on the back of the program. I would also like to give my personal thanks to my superb assistant, Beth Leonardo. Superb says it all. We are lucky that she's continuing at URI in a PhD program in English this fall. So before I hand it over to Provost Donald DeHaze for his opening remarks, I want to say on behalf of the URI Center for Humanities, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. It was obvious that the chair of the music department, Joe Perillo, tried to co-opt the meeting by corrupting the computer. But thank you, Anu, and thank you all for being here to celebrate the 4th annual Humanities Festival. And this is a particularly critical festival this year. Every year, in a different venue, in a different forum, the humanists of the university come together and challenge us to think about who we are, what our place in the world is, and what we believe and understand about ourselves and others. But today's topic, I think, is a particularly important one. And it's obvious that it's important, and Dr. Joseph, it's such a pleasure to have you back on the campus, because it's the topic today about post-racial America, is obviously contemporary, given the incidents over the last year that have surfaced in many different parts of the country and in our own state to some degree. But for me, I think the most important issue that this festival and some of the other presentations we've had on this campus this year illustrates is, in my view, universities must be, not should be, must be the places in our country where we can have difficult, challenging conversations. The conversations that make people uncomfortable. The conversations that don't happen in state houses, boardrooms, elementary, middle, or high school classrooms. They don't happen on select boards, mostly because people are made uncomfortable by them. One of the most important roles universities can play is a place where the conversations that do make us uncomfortable can happen and should happen and need to happen. And one of the most important topics, in my view, and I've been saying this not just in the last year, but since I've been here at URI for 6 years, relate to issues of race and racism in America. And so I'm pleased to have the Center for Humanities hosting this event. I credit Anu and her colleagues for inviting Dr. Joseph here to stimulate our thinking, to challenge our thinking about this critical and most important topic. And I'll say it once again, if we're not talking about this topic or these kinds of topics on a university campus, then we have to know the conversation is not happening, for the most part, across our country. So thank you, the Center for Humanities and Anu, for making this happen. And thank you again, Dr. Joseph, for stimulating our dialogue and guiding us through this. Welcome, everyone, and I'm really very, very pleased to be here myself, to be a sponsor of this event, and that you're all here to join with us. Anu?
Thank you. So now I'd like to invite Dean Brownell to give out our Excellence Awards in the Humanities. Yeah, you can stand over here.
Okay.
I was going to hand them over.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you very much. To me, it makes a great deal of sense to have Professor Matthew head the Center for the Humanities. If you looked at her work that examines issues of race and identity and discrimination and so much more, I'm still thinking of Brown does not equal terrorist. Her work compels us to think and inspires us as well. So thank you for serving in this capacity. Last year, we celebrated the 20th anniversary of the URI Center for the Humanities. And as part of that celebration, I'm so pleased that Anu and the advisory board agreed to join me in celebrating in more than one way, not only featuring gifted humanists like Dr. Joseph, as we have this year, but also in celebrating the scholarship of our faculty, which you see represented out on the table. And there are many gift opportunities. I invite you to look at Dr. Joseph's latest book and the exquisite work from our faculty as well. But we decided to celebrate by giving out merit scholarships to top humanities students. And so we are presenting for the second year in a row in what we hope will be a long tradition of awarding top students that are recommended by the faculty. Each one will be introduced by one of the students' faculty members. So I'm very pleased to call up to the microphone Professor Peter Covino for the first award.
Thank you for being here. So our first award goes to graduate student Sarah Cruz in the English department. We're going to be losing her very soon, so this is very emotional for me. And a little note, it's a bit of a, not a very long introduction, but you know, we are English professors, so I'm culling from a couple of different recommendations. Sarah Cruz came to URI from the, Portland State University in Oregon, where she achieved the highest honor, summa cum laude, as an undergraduate majoring in film studies and theater arts, and as a master's student in English. An unusually gifted thinker at URI, Sarah has distinguished herself for her rare ability to work with equal inspiration as a literary theorist and a creative writer, having won multiple first-place honors in the English department's graduate competitions, in both the critical essay in 2 consecutive years and creative nonfiction in 2011 and 2013. Sarah has presented her research nationally on a range of writers and philosophers from Anne Carson to Kierkegaard, Wittgenstein to Paul Celan, Adorno, Wallace Stevens, and Roland Barthes. And she has published work on Zizek and Marcel Proust. And thanks to the URI Center for the Humanities Research Grant, Sarah was able to consult the long-neglected manuscript editions of Gertrude Stein's Tender Buttons in the Yale University's Beinecke Library, the effects of which, in Sarah's hands, have been to reorient our understanding of a foundationally radical experiment with language and the conditioning principles of human perception. How do we perceive what we perceive? And when we think, we are perceiving color and language. Sarah's dissertation on what she calls the color of grammar, quote unquote, works at the intersection of early 20th century visual art, philosophy, and avant-garde poetry, boldly to answer this question with the help of a lot of the aforementioned, including Blaise Cendrars and Mina Loy. And currently, she's a blogger of contemporary poetry for Harvard University's Poetry Room. She's also an invited contributor to Brown University's on-site literary forum, Anomalous. And she's the managing editor of a press that's housed here, the Barrow Street Press, which publishes poetry, 4 collections a year. And Sarah shows a keen dedication both to the time and thought it takes and the necessity for public discourse. And finally, the last sentence. Thank you. It's rare to encounter someone such as Sarah, who during the course of the intensities of many intellectual activities would never venture a negative reaction or a complicated exchange. She is ideally accommodating as a teacher and as a student, and is worthy of our utmost accolades. Congratulations. Thank you.
And now moving on to our undergraduates. The first undergraduate student will be introduced by Professor Joanne Hamadou Sullivan.
Thank you. Now that you take a look and see Becca Carroll, I'm suspecting that most of you recognize Becca, since she is everywhere here at URI. Becca Carroll is a triple major in French, Spanish, and film media, which is why I think so many of you may recognize her, as well as her consistent work in the Harrington Hub. So one way or another, I think you've probably all encountered her. Becca is a student who has demonstrated a love of world literatures and film throughout her experiences at URI. She brings valuable insights to each of her classes, and the work that she completes demonstrates an ability to draw on broader knowledge in the humanities in order to strengthen all of her analyses, whether they be in French or in Spanish or in English. For example, for a final paper in a French class, she did a feminist reading of select films by directors of North African origin in France, and this project stood out because of the quality of the written work, the strength of the argument, and the originality of her approach, as did all of her original work in her Francophone African literature course, for example. Becca displays a commitment to global communication. When selecting a venue to improve her French skills, she chose Université Laval, where she was the only URI student, to immerse herself more fully. Becca's interest in the humanities extends beyond the classroom. She was selected among the many Spanish majors to serve as that program's Spanish ambassador. She is an excellent leader as the president of the URI Film Collaborative, the mission of which includes to, quote, educate, create, advocate, and inform through cinematic art, end quote. Becca is a very effective collaborator with all the other students on film sets and in her job at the Harrington Hub. This year, she is spearheading the URI Life in a Day film project, which is currently in post-production. Becca accomplishes all this as a triple major while maintaining a 3.88 grade point average. Congratulations, Becca.
And our last honoree will be introduced by Professor Michael Honhart.
Hey, it's one of ours.
It's a pleasure to speak about John Wren. I've had John in 4 classes. He's like many of our high-achieving history majors in that he has 2 majors. What's unusual is that his other major is computer science. I don't think I know any students who have combined those 2 fields in a long, long time. John came from far away, from North Kingstown, to URI, and he came here to become a high school history teacher and discovered that computer science is not fixing printers. And he discovered computer programming courses, so he was able to finish both a BA in computer science and a BA in history. I didn't know all this about John. When I first met John, he was the guy who ducked out of the side door of the Quinn Auditorium on his skateboard at the end of my Western Civ lectures. But I did get to know him very well in my German history class in the 2-semester capstone sequence that he's completing with me. It's like having a graduate student in the class. John is an intellectual. He always aims a little higher than he needs to get an A in the class. He wants more. And He won our prize last year in the history department. We give one prize every year to a junior with the best record, and John won that. And I'm very happy to recommend him for this as well. John is going to be going to Brown University next year in a PhD program in computer science, but we're going to keep him in the humanities because Brown has an open curriculum that allows him to also pursue an MA degree in history, and he'll be funded all the way, so he's going to be a funded history student as he's doing that on the side. And I can't think of a better person to win an award like this. Thank you.
Thank you so much.